But more importantly, Reagan cut off the spigot to important social programs. When I was from 1978 to about 1990, I volunteered for 13 years at my mother's senior citizen center. I used to drive people when I got a license in '83 to vote. I used to clean up. I used to work. There was a program called Comprehensive Employment Training Act, CETA. CETA, it was called. And there were kids a few years older than me. I remember one of them looked like the character Arnold Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter. And these were inner city kids of all different colors that learned skills and whatnot. And then Reagan came and immediately cut that off. And now I've talked before in other forums about the bullshit of the crack epidemic, but it's no wonder that a lot of white kids started using crack, and it became a media sensation in '83, '84. Just a few years after Reagan cut off the spigot that would have taught these kids meaningful skills, how to get jobs. And again, this is, I think it's older than both of you. I think Joel is younger than Alex. That millions of people, and it wasn't just blacks and Latinos. What really gets me is when we talk socially, when people talk about poor people, there are more people, not percentage-wise, but there are more poor white people in this country than there are any other group. And these people, whether they're in Appalachia, whether they're in Central Texas, or whether they're in Chicago, New York, LA, Southern Florida, these people need the help. And because they are forgotten, and because they can say, well, you know, the blacks, they got the NAACP, and the Latinos, they got this, that, or the other. There's all that. But these people are always forgotten. And they're given these crumbs. And they are so lacking in self-esteem because, you know, they view that they have been totally forgotten. The only group that's probably more forgotten are Native Americans. But yeah, these poor whites, this is why they vote for people like Trump, because they have been totally forgotten, and they just want to say fuck you to the system. Well, if you had an actual opposition party that stood up for people, you could get these coalitions that FDR did. But the Democrats have seemingly forgotten what worked for them from 1933 to 1968. For about 34 years, they dominated. Even when Ike was president for 8 years, they dominated the House and the Senate. In the middle of the 20th century, this was the formula to win. Just do and help those that need the help the most. But Democrats, they got bought off right after the Republicans got bought off, about 10, 12 years after. Hell, Joe Biden is to the right of Richard Nixon on virtually every social issue you can imagine. Nixon was for Medicare for all. Yeah. Nixon, there's the old saying, again, you guys are too young, that LBJ founded the Great Society, but Nixon funded the Great Society. Throughout the 1970s, those CETA programs, I think OSHA was formed under Nixon. All of these government agencies to make life better. When Ralph Nader was just a consumer advocate, Nixon worked more often than not with the Ralph Nader and Nader's Raiders to protect the public citizen. You don't see fucking Biden. Biden just wants to throw the black people in jail. Biden is farther to the right on every social issue, virtually, than Richard Nixon was 50 years ago. There's really nothing else more to say about the modern state of the Democratic Party.